Hello there, welcome. My name is Jared Packard. I'm the curator of this exhibition. We're going to do a cute, casual walkthrough tour of this exhibition, SISSI, that I've curated. I guess before we get started, I want to give a shout out and thank you to our sponsor, Coronavirus, for making this event a reality. It has been so persistent and has taken our breaths away. So thank you, coronavirus, COVID-19. So this exhibition came about as I moved to Omaha from Chicago. And when I got here, there wasn't a very robust queer community, and I just was seeing, I don't know, there's like a lack of tools or criticality of thinking about what queerness is, what gender expression looks and feels like. So this was something of like my effort to one, ingratiate myself into the Omaha arts community, but also to think through like what gender expression is. And I think, yeah, so I guess the title SISSI, spelled S-I-S-S-I, is something of a reclamation of an insult. I think by changing the spelling, it's something kind of like, reclaiming it as our own, holding it as something that's prideful, something to be celebrated, to kind of sap the venom out of what might otherwise be a hurtful term. And I guess the other part of it being of coming here from Chicago is I really wanted to bring together kind of the networks that I had before coming here and sharing with the Omaha community some people that I really love and admire by bringing their practices here, but also as an excuse to reach out and connect with artists here in Omaha that I hadn't known yet. So this has been a really lovely synthesis of those two things as we have artists from Chicago, New York City, and here in Omaha. So one of like the guiding goals or objectives of this exhibition has been to commemorate the historic erasure and ongoing erasure of gender nonconforming people. And I guess throughout history we know that queer people have existed, there's whispers of them, but we don't know a whole lot about them. And so I think by thinking about that silencing or that erasure, I wanted to profile artists and practices that kind of privilege a quietness about them that maybe completely eliminated objecthood altogether. And I guess we'll talk about what that looks and feels like as we move through the exhibition. The other thing that was really important to me was I wanted to kind of shift away from conventional signifiers of what queerness looks like. So things like typically you see like gay art as naked erotic bodies, a lot of like bondage, leather kind of motifs, rainbows, glitters, things like that. And as part of kind of thinking about that quietness, I wanted to instead think about the way that practices or objects or artistic gestures invite a way of engaging in the viewer that can somehow encapsulate a queer sensibility. So I'm really interested in thinking about like how a practice might incept or kind of infect a thought process or a way of being with a seed of kind of dissonance that might, again, think about what that could be as a queer sensibility. So, yeah, I guess without further ado, we'll talk about the first work here by Matt Morris. This piece is titled Baton Rouge is a colonizer's name, and so is Cyrock. So there's a lot to unpack in just that title. But before we go there, I just want to kind of think about like the formal qualities of this as it relates to the architecture of the room. It's kind of like gently kissing the ceiling and the floor. And though it alludes to or references kind of like a column or something that might be weight-bearing, it actually doesn't support anything. And so there's something kind of like a deception there, or a dependency of the object on the architecture, the system of the room. The other thing that is really lovely about this is the ruched fabric, which is the way that this kind of like is wrinkled and folds back in on itself. It's kind of a trope of garment making, of classically beautiful. I think of like Rococo dresses when I see this. And I think what's interesting about it is that it's typically thought of like as something ornamental or something like the extra thing, the thing to be added at the end. It's not structurally integral to like a garment typically. But here it's foregrounded as something to be considered formally in its own right. And I think what's interesting about it is the way that it kind of hides moments and then pushes forward other moments. So if you look closely, you can see these images taken from a comic book of the character Psylocke, who is an X-Men, if you're familiar with Marvel lore. And so to return to the title, Baton Rouge is a colonizer's name, and so is Psylocke. Matt Morris is from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is, of course, literally a colonizer's name during the French imperialistic period. And then that kind of ties into the character of Psylocke, in that she was originally a British, white British telepath, and then through her narrative, for some reason her psyche was transplanted to a Japanese woman's body. So there's like this, again, colonistic, imperialist taking over of a body. And so I think what's important for me in this piece is thinking about how something as casual as the name of a city, or as or like a character in a comic book, can actually represent a history of violence and oppression. And I think in the context of this show, which is dedicated to thinking about gender expression, kind of that relationship of something that might be overlooked as harmless or something, actually carries a significance that impacts a lot of people. Think on another note, just like I'm a big X-Men fan, and there's something about, as like young queers, I think a lot of us gravitate towards these like strong female superheroes who are like busty and able to like take down all kinds of villains. And there's something really empowering about their like overt sexuality and like broad, beautiful hips. So appreciate that, Matt Morris. Let's talk about something else. Let's go over here. Come on, Peter. Yeah, Matt Morris, get up in there. Also, we should just take a moment to thank Peter, the director of programming behind the camera, who is 6 feet away from me at all times, for pulling this together. So I might be giving some directorial notes as we move along. This piece is by Jared Buckheister, who's coming from New York City. This piece is titled 12 Bullies in a Bucket. And I'm going to ask Peter at some point to get into some of these sumptuous details. But right here, you can kind of see the faint outline of a bucket. And for me, there's something about this bucket that acts as a surrogate or a substitute of a body. Something that can like receive liquids. So there's maybe like some sexual connotations there. Think about a bukkake, but like, there's the ominous violence, the way that these like characters are circled around it. And they're all figures taken from the kind of like. So Jared draws a lot from iconography of like the rural America. Characters that might be dismissed as like lowbrow or like hillbillies and rednecks. Characters like truckers or hometown football players. And typically people that we might associate with homophobia or like toxic masculinity. And I think what's really exciting about this piece is the way that he's rendered these characters kind of pays homage to what I think a lot of queer people experience, which is like your subjectors of abuse might also be kind of, there might be a sexual undertone to them, right? They might also be something that we fetishize. And I think that the way that they're rendered being so very tender, There's space held here for them being both an abuser, but then also pointing to the fragility of their masculinity and their vulnerabilities at the same time. Let's move on over here. This is the artist Jared Brown. That makes three Jareds, including myself so far. So these ceramic pieces, they're masks. And this is, these objects might not be legible to our heterosexual friends, because what they reference is a dating app called Grindr, which is, a hookup or dating app that you can have on your phone. And like this kind of face thing is like the icon of Grindr. And what's interesting about Grindr is that though it was designed as something to connect queer people, to create intimacy between queer people, it has also become a space of really overt prejudice and bigotry. And what I mean by that is people have felt very free and emboldened to post what they call, quote unquote, their preferences. So you'll see frequently on profiles things like, I'm not interested in black people, or I'm not interested in effeminate people, or fat people. And there's something about the divide created on the digital interface that emboldens people to let these things live out in the open. I think what's interesting about what Jared has done here is he's taken something that exists in this slick digital world and it's translated into something that's material and felt. And I think that invitation helps us think through like those statements, those bigotries that exist in the digital world. They have real world implications, and they are felt as much as like these ceramic masks are felt. While we're talking about Jared, I also want to point out the soundtrack that you might be hearing in the background. This is a piece Jared made for the show. You can hear some of those like dance beats going on, and he's mixed in moments from like Toni Morrison quotes. Jared also works as a DJ in Chicago, and what I really love about this piece is that it invokes kind of an atmosphere that recalls the dance floor. And I think that's important because for queer people, the dance floor is a really important site for political resistance. It's one of the few spaces that, despite all of the regulations and oppressions happening on our bodies out in the world, the dance floor can be a safe space where we can express ourselves however we need to, and we can affirm our own bodies and affirm other people's bodies with intimacy and with love and care. So that's an example of kind of like an ephemeral art practice that kind of exists here in the show. There's no objectness to it, but it sets a framework for how we might engage with the show in its whole. Let's move over to Walker's work. Walker Green is an Omaha-based artist. As Peter gets up close onto some of the slogans that Walker's painted onto the wall, I think what's really important here is, despite kind of like this aesthetics of kind of quietness or reservation that I'm interested in drawing out, or silence in a lot of these practices, there's also, we all have to hold space for kind of like raucous, in your face, just being in your face. And I think that's what Walker captures really beautifully in these. Things like, if you can read this, you're gay. Or, fuck your local tranny. They're just very blunt and in your face. And I think that's a really important attitude to hold, because that is the attitude that has garnered political agency for the queer community by putting ourselves vocally in your face. The other component to this mural, of course, is like this mirror here. And the mirror is really interesting because for really anybody, a mirror can be a site for self-affirmation, for literally self-reflection, right? And I think what's cool or clever about what Walker's done is that they have they're leveraging the vanity of the viewer by kind of inviting them to take a selfie. through a mirror, because who doesn't want to look at themselves and capture themselves? But in that process is also kind of incepted or infiltrated with a slogan. And here it reads, can you get fired for who you are? Contact your senator. And then hashtag LB627. What that is referencing is that here in Nebraska, you can still be fired for your sexuality. It's not protected by law. And so this is LB627 is a law that's actually right now, I believe, under review by the state senate to provide protections to queer people. So this is his way of kind of infiltrating through your vanity and create a political message. As Peter tactfully navigates this beautiful sculpture here. This is a work by J. Michael Ford, who is a Chicago-based artist. This work is made from conduit piping, something that you would source from a hardware store or Home Depot. And what that kind of evokes for me is kind of a world of pragmatic design, of utilitarian function. And he's taken that and manipulated that material into something that's elegant and lyrical and undulating. And for me, like I think a lot about there's a figurativeness to it. So maybe Peter can kind of like do a walk around the room. You'll see how like the formal qualities of it kind of begin to shift and alter as you change your relation to the sculpture. And for me, that becomes like a nice metaphor for the singularity of like an identity that sometimes we think of as like a monolithic, static person. And the way that this kind of shifts and moves in space as you yourself change your relation to it, it draws into question like the flux of identity, or the constant shifting spectrumness of who we are. Yeah. Let's move on over to this side of the room, where we have in this window setting. Here we have Dawuane Lamont Hayes, who is also an Omaha-based artist. I'll try and give you, or Peter can get some close-ups for you. So this project here is titled NOISE, which stands for North Omaha Information Support Everyone. And for those of you not from Omaha, North Omaha is kind of the concentration of the African American community and has been subjected to disenfranchisement via redlining, oppression, racism. Through city planning, the city planning has fragmented that community over time, and it doesn't maybe have the voice in the broader Omaha community as it should. And so this project, NOISE, what it is it's a collection of magazines, periodicals, stickers, posters. They do this SMS distribution information thing. So like that, for me, is really interesting because for queer people, we have to kind of create our own community. And we have to take ownership of our own narrative to kind of subvert and reclaim the narrative that's maybe thrust upon us from an early age and find our own way. And Dawuane, they have taken those lessons and applied it to their community as a whole, the North Omaha community. And yeah, it's a powerful practice, and I was really excited to include something that's maybe not traditionally fine art in this context. As part of that project, Dawuane also created this very cool takeaway poster. And what this is kind of like an amalgamation of several of the different things happening in this room. So on one side you can see paintings made by Walker Green. And on the other side, there is an interview between Matt Morris and Jared Packard, who's the assistant curator at the Des Moines Art Center. And I was excited to have this component in this exhibition because the invitation is to take it with you as you leave. And for me, it's really important to kind of permit or allow moments of this exhibition to have a life and carry on outside of these white walls. So the idea is that it creates tendrils, people can distribute it for themselves, share information, share ideas. And I think the other part of it that I really like is that on one hand you have like this really blunt, again, in your face statements, and the other side is like a very thoughtful, a little bit longer, as you can see, maybe more of an academic take on the ideas that are happening in this show. So I really wanted to create multiple points of entry in the thoughts and the content that we're unpacking here in this exhibition. What else is there? I guess the last piece that I want to talk about is something that you can't experience virtually, because it's a perfume, something that I'm wearing right now. And it's a perfume made by Matt Morris, who also made this piece here. And I was just, the perfume is, again, another example of a practice or artistic gesture that it escapes kind of traditional like objecthood. And for me personally, it's something that I don't really have the tools to unpack or analyze the way that I might with traditional visual media. And for that, I'm like slippery, and I don't know exactly what to say about it, and that's why I'm kind of drawn to it. But what's exciting about it is the way it's meant to be experienced is worn by myself when I'm in the gallery. If we had an opening right now, you would be invited to smell me. And so for that, that's like a very intimate gesture, to lean into someone and to smell them, and to not only are you smelling the perfume, but you're also smelling my body and the way that my body might change that perfume. And again, thinking about how like these invisible forces kind of create a framework for the way that we might engage with one another, perhaps creating intimacy. If you don't like the smell, maybe you'll avoid me. And so that's an interesting gesture on the part of the artist. And I guess kind of to wrap things up a little bit, thinking about how that invisible framework of the perfume is maybe there's a nice tie into the invisible framework of like the forces that regulate gender expression and the things that tell the forces that tell young boys that like they shouldn't like colors, and the things that it's like, you know, it's a tragedy that we've been deprived potentially of great artists because young boys were told that they shouldn't be drawn to aesthetics. That's not a masculine thing. Or young girls that are told that they can't be leaders because they can't be bold and assertive in public places. And so I guess maybe the big takeaway for this project for me is highlighting the way that regardless of your sexual orientation or your identity, the ways the societally constructed gender norms, they affect all of us and they harm all of us. And yeah, so let's deconstruct that shit. Let's get rid of it. Help me out, guys. That's it. That's all I got. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully this will be posted somewhere else later.